Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our commitment is to help, hope, and healing of our veteran family and our nation. I'm Jim Blythe, a U.S. Navy veteran and a certified senior advisor. Join us as we continue the mission of leadership and commitment to our communities and our great country. Why, you never know where we're going to go or who you're going to meet. We invite you to join in, plug in, and share in what we do. This is your Veterans Impact Show.
Welcome aboard. This is Jim Blythe and
Cedric White. Glad to be here.
And we are both U.S. Navy veterans. I'm Vietnam. He was a whole lot after me. So today, though, we want to talk about something very, very, very important. Recently in our veteran community, we have had two suicides that were very damaging, one in New Orleans and one in Las Vegas. I called a very dear friend of mine, basically a sister, who is the executive director of Stop One, which is all about suicide prevention. She's also a clown princess, because first time I saw her 30 years ago, she was a minister wearing a clown outfit that she has gone all over the world and ministered to people. I'd like you to meet, please, Miss Charlynn Johns. Charlynn, welcome aboard.
Welcome, Charlynn.
Thanks so much. And I've had the pleasure of working and ministering alongside Cedric and his wife at an event from Johnny and Friends for warriors that have experienced a lot of the unseen wounds of war. And sadly, it's those unseen wounds, those times of despair that creates an environment ripe for suicide or suicide attempts.
It's tragic, no doubt about it. And we have not only an epidemic that we have had for several years in the veteran community, but we've got it nationally. Matter of fact, there are children taking their own lives because of helplessness, hopelessness, all of these problems. Charlynn, what motivated you and what got you started with Stop One and getting into the suicide prevention arena?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, I started out ministering to orphans, people impacted by trauma or disabilities. And, we would go into orphanages. And a clown in the United States, every child, has a birthday party and has a clown, so it's no big deal. But let me tell you, I was a rock star in those foreign countries because the only place those kids could ever see clowns was at a circus, and orphans don't get a whole lot of opportunities to go to the circus. So I was treated as a rock star, and it was quite an enjoyable experience. And it really set the stage for me to work in other cross-cultural communities. So while I was working cross-culturally with people from different countries, and I came back and had an opportunity through Johnny and Friends Ministry to work with veterans. That is a whole another culture. Mm-hmm. So I was familiar with working cross-culturally and quickly picking up on cues that they give, language that they use, things like that. And because I was able to develop a rapport with the veterans based on where I'd been and what I'd seen, it was almost like they knew that I knew what the real world was all about. And I started a resource page, Battle Buddy Info, and because I came across these veterans that had no idea where to go, what to do, and they were transplanted from their family home, many of them down to San Antonio, and they're totally uprooted. They don't know what schools, they have to change their kids' schools, they have to change everything to accommodate their service members' injuries and continued medical treatment. And what I saw, number one, they were about the same age as my own children. And the other side was just this total hopelessness that they had no idea, the caregivers had no idea where to go, what to do, how to access things. So that kind of got the ball rolling with that. And then shortly after that, when Johnny and friends started having these Wounded Warrior getaways, they said, do you want to come and participate? And I was like, absolutely. So I started by taking all my costumes, all these wigs, all this funny hats, all that stuff. And I was thinking it would be a way to, interact with the children, that they would have a good time. Let me tell you, those hardcore Marines
That's
and
right.
special ops guys went in there and, dressed up, because it gave them a dopamine release in their mind and helped reorient those neural pathways, which I didn't learn until a long time later. But a telephone call came into the Veteran Resource Center, where we had an office. Ken Watterson, the executive director, hardcore Marine, 2 Purple Hearts, served in Vietnam. He took the call, and it was a female veteran, and she was in despair, and he could tell he needed to get someone on the line. Fortunately, there was a female veteran working at the resource center, so he was able to do a warm handoff to her. But he came to me and he said, look, if I don't know what to say, there's a lot of people that don't know. We've got to start addressing this. So I set about developing the website, Stop One, and using it as kind of a curated website of topical information. But one of the, I guess, really differences between Stop One and, let's say, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, that's a really heavy text website. A lot of websites have a lot of text and no pictures, and people are, that's why TikTok was so popular, because you got 30 seconds to show your stuff. But it tells you right up front. You mentioned earlier the Kevin Hines video that we might be watching. It tells you, you got 5 minutes to learn about suicide. Watch this video. You got 10 minutes, read this article. And it's laid out if you're family or friends of someone who's suicidal, if you're a military or first responder, what happens after a suicide, all those things that people really aren't considering. And it's at the point where people around veterans, or as you said, children as young as 5 years old, have died by suicide, which I find unfathomable. It allows them a place to find out about trainings and to potentially get trained. We are using that public health approach, where you can teach a simple set of skills that we'll talk about a little later, to react when you see someone in a mental health crisis. So it might be a veteran, it might be a teenager, it might be someone in the grocery store line in front of you, it might be a homeless person that's experienced a mental health crisis, that you can know how you can approach that person and how you can help.
I've experienced that several times in my life. And there were dead clues, there were giveaways that person was in a lot of trouble. It was very, very, very obvious. And I didn't know what to say.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do. And I was involved in 2 of those funerals with people I considered to be close friends. One of them I was caught totally off guard. The other one, I told his wife to lock up his guns. He was a hunter. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of things you can see, but sometimes you can't see. So first of all, before we go the whole long way, I want people to go to your website, Stop One. Tell them how to get this from Stop One. What's your website, Charlynn?
The website is stopone, STOPONE.info. The first thing that pops up is Know the Signs of Suicide, and that's that little piece of paper. Download it. It comes from the National Suicide Crisis, so it's generic information that can be applied anyone. Hey, take it off my website and create your own with your own logo on it. But people need to know and be aware, this is what a mental health crisis looks like. That person may or may not be suicidal. They may be a cutter wanting to harm themselves. And it really, I think it gives you a little more confidence. Like you just said, you didn't know what to say. And people shy away from the word suicide. I've had medical professionals that go, suicide. And I'm like, you guys are in the medical profession. What are you doing whispering suicide? You don't go whispering cancer. And people, it has been so associated with shame and weakness, and that's all forms of mental health, that people don't want to tell anybody because they don't want to be labeled as crazy.
Right.
They don't want to get help because they're afraid they're going to get a label of you're crazy, and that's not accurate. I'm not saying there's not, certain psychiatric diagnosis going on, but there is certainly other options than taking your own life.
So
People just don't know.
go to stopone.info, correct? And you can download this and take a look at it. Let me tell you something. It's got a lot of good information here, right?
Yeah. Great information.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's one of the wonderful things, Charlynn, is that as soon as you go there, right, if you have any inclination, there's information right there. And you can always dig deeper, right? But right from the very beginning, you see, risk factors, you see warning signs, things that you can look for. And what you've said is right on point. So many people are afraid that if I mention suicide, if I ask the question, maybe I'm planting the seed. And that is not the case. Sometimes just the fact of mentioning it, let somebody know that you care enough to be attentive to them, and you may be the beginning point of stopping someone from going any further.
You made a statement earlier, and again, let's go back to one other thing real quick. The suicide prevention hotline number, 988+1. If you're a veteran. If you're not a veteran, 988. That puts somebody on the line. And we're going to have a video in a few minutes where the guy says, if somebody had just asked me how I was doing, I wouldn't have done it. He survived. So we've got that video to talk about. In this, I didn't know what to do. And I watched it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
It's think
a real tragedy.
Yeah, and each one was different. And a lot of people think, well, you just were saying it. A lot of people are afraid, well, they'll think I'm crazy or I'm crazy. Not necessarily the case. Now, you also made another point that people can go through traumatic events. We see a lot of that in the military, don't we?
Yes, we do.
But you also see it a lot in marriage counseling. There are people who go through tremendously traumatic events in their marriage counseling, right?
Let me tell you, we're seeing not just in the marital situation, we're seeing family situations more and more, as Charlynn mentioned. Ages 5, we're seeing 8-year-olds that are not just talking about it, they're doing it. And there's because of the trauma environment, trauma situation that they experience, and then they go out and they feel that they have no other alternative. And so this is where they go. And if we can arm ourselves, or at least know where to go, know somebody to talk to, it'll prevent a lot of that. But we see it a lot, again, not just militarily, but in just relationships, people on the job. We live in a stress-filled society, especially here in the Western Hemisphere of the world, right? We're running, we're going all the time. And when things don't happen the way we think they should, quite often the ideations come. And if we don't have somebody who will just, like you said, mention, have you been thinking about hurting yourself? Have you thinking about hurting somebody else? Which is, if you call the VA, that's one of the first questions that they're going to ask you when you go to see your doctor, right? But now, quite often, people are afraid to do that, and we can't be fearful of that. We have to be willing to ask the question.
And I think, to your point, when you say the word suicide, you've already let them know that you're a safe person.
Exactly.
And you can say, are you thinking about suicide? they might take a pause, and they may or may not respond. They may or may not tell you the truth, or, like, well, I've been thinking about it, but not right now. The next thing that you can say is, I'm here to keep you safe. Let's keep you safe tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep you safe tomorrow. If I'll be with you, I'll be here. We can go, get you medical treatment or whatever the appropriate treatment, for that scenario is. The data has shown that if you put 10 minutes between suicidal ideation and access to lethal means, it can save a life and stop the suicide from occurring.
Wow.
That access to lethal means, suicide is so high in the veteran community because 75% of the time, veterans are choosing lethal means. And firearms are deadly 98% of the time. All other methods of suicide combined are only 2% fatal. So you can see why the numbers in the veteran demographic are so high. And that's not even the VA doesn't even count or keep track of military spouses, of military children.
Wow.
And I try to every time here's another good opportunity to tell people we are raising a generation of children that has been overwhelmingly exposed to suicide of their parents' friends, perhaps the parent. And if you're exposed to a suicide, you're 40% more likely to die by suicide, and see that that's a choice because somebody that made that choice. And perhaps let's say it's the military person in the family that is strong, that is, a fighter, that's a warrior. And if they're not making it, well, then you can see how the trickle-down effect happens.
I thought the percentages of children who followed their parents' behavior was a lot higher than that, but that's a tremendously high number.
Too high.
We're going to take a break right quick to hear from our partners, Fairway Independent Mortgage, who I work for, Healing Thine Heart, Symbios. We're here for you, and thank you to the people that support us. Thank you for the DBTV network, and thank you for AUN out in California. Thank you for Smart TVs. Thank you for being on board, and stay with us. We got more to keep you alive and help you keep others alive.
And thrive.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Heart's Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Well, hello, I'm Cedric White, co-host of the Veterans Impact Show, here with my partner, Jim Blythe, and we have the great queen of clownage with us here today, Charlynn Johns. Charlynn is the executive director of Stop One. She is very, very instrumental in being resourceful and getting information out on suicide prevention. Jim, there's a video that we want to take a look at.
All right. Jordan, would you please run that video? Jordan's our great engineer. We're thankful to him. You can see us.
We have lost far too many lives traveling the path to this day.
Since 1937, over 2,000 people have died at the Golden Gate Bridge. I feel lucky to be alive every single day. Of the thousands that have died off the Golden Gate Bridge, I am of the 1% who have survived. So I was born on drugs and premature, and then I bounced around from home to home. Nobody wanted to keep me because I was sick, and I got lucky. I landed in the home of Patrick and Deborah Hines. I had a great childhood. I thought growing up that everything's gonna be great. And then at 17, it all came crashing down. If you can imagine feeling that everyone around you is out to get you, trying to hurt you, and trying to kill you, and you believe that to be the truth. From the extreme paranoia, I exhibited symptoms of mania. From the mania came the hallucinations, both auditory and visual. And so with that and the bipolar disorder, I just was spiraling out of control. I vividly remember writing my suicide note. People don't get it. Like, I thought I was a burden to everyone who loved me because that's what my brain told me, because that's how powerful your brain is. I got off the bus. I walked slowly down the walkway of the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, people rode by me, drove by me, walked by me, and a woman approached me and she said, "Will you take my picture?" She said thanks and she walked away. It was that moment I just said, nobody cares. The reality was that everybody cared. I just couldn't see it. I ran forward and using my two hands, I catapulted myself into free fall. What I'm about to say is the exact same thing that 19 Golden Gate Bridge jump survivors have also said. The millisecond my hands left the rail, it was an instant regret. And I remember thinking, no one's gonna know that I didn't want to die. In 4 seconds, I fell 75 miles an hour, 25 stories, and I hit the water. I was in the most physical pain I had ever experienced, I have ever experienced. The Coast Guard was amazing. He was just so freaked out that I was alive that he just dove in and brought me on board. The guy said, "Do you know how many people we pull out of this water that are already dead?" And I said, "No, and I don't want to know." The guy put his hand on my forehead, said, "Kid, you're a miracle." My father took one step into the hospital room, and I looked up at him and I said, "Dad, I'm sorry." And he said, "No, Kevin, I'm sorry." And if you think about it, both of our immediate reactions were guilt. Guilt that didn't belong to either of us. And even though I didn't die, I caused people a great deal of grief and pain. Just the day of my attempt still sits within them today. I asked my father if he still feared my death by suicide. He said every time the phone goes off, his first inclination is Kevin alive. I had that impact on my dad. So after the jump, the road to recovery was pretty long. I had 7 psych ward stays in the next 11 years. I still have all the symptoms I ever had. Mania, depression, psychosis, hallucinations, all that's still there. I just know how to cope with it and I know how to beat it. I built a support network over these years of treatment so that I wouldn't be fighting this alone. So like, it's okay not to be okay. It's not okay not to ask for someone to back you up. To the families who live with the loss or losses of loved ones, they didn't do that to hurt you or destroy your life. They took their lives because they were struggling and in a great deal of emotional and mental pain. Suicide, mental illness, and addiction are the only diseases that we blame the person for perpetually. But people die from suicide just like they die from any other organ diseased. Today, no matter the pain I'm in, no matter the struggles I experience, I do believe that life is the greatest gift we've ever been given. And if you're suffering mentally, don't wait like I did, sitting in denial for so long. Because recovery happens. I'm living proof.
Wow. Thank you, Charlynn, for bringing that to us. This is an important video, and this is an important subject. This is an important thing. So again, we ask you to go to stop1.info. Pull up this sheet that Cedric and I were showing you that will show you what some things to do and get help
Dial
if you need help.
988. Dial 988.
Dial 988. No doubt about it.
As a matter of fact, Charlynn, let me ask you in reference to 988, because what this guy said, one thing that I'm sorry, I'd never seen that video before. And it really touched me. You could feel the pain, the hurt that he's exemplifying, and you know, family members that are hurt by suicide. But from the perspective of 988, what can a person expect to receive there? Let's say it from the person, maybe I have suicidal ideations, or someone who thinks they know somebody. What can a person expect to get when they call that number?
Well, the first thing that they expect to get is, or the first thing that the person answering the 988 call is getting them safe.
So I'm sorry, I asked that question and we're getting ready to go to a break. So can you hold on a second and we'll get that answer when we come back. Go ahead, Jim.
I got to tell you, this is great information. We're here to help you and keep people alive. We've got to stop this epidemic in this country.
Yes.
Now, a quick thank you to Fairway Independent Mortgage, my company. My MLS number is 311-548, corporate 12289, equal opportunity lender, to SymbiosCCN.com, as well as Healing Thine Heart's Ministry. Man, I got to tell you, this guy is the most fantastic pastor that I've ever served under. And I'm telling you, take a look at Healing Thine Heart. We'll be right back as we continue to talk about keeping you alive. Thank you.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Heart's Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Let's give out these websites again. Healing Thine Heart Ministries. Right?
HealingThineHearts.org. Yes,
HealingThineHearts.org. Cedric has a fantastic ministry up in Prosper, Texas. And he is online as well. So tune in any Sunday. Tune in and take a look at what's Facebook, YouTube.
Yes, Facebook, YouTube.
Okay. And then SymbiosCCN.com. They do a lot in suicide prevention because what they do is help veterans get their mind back by using neuroacupuncture and other methods in counseling. It's amazing. When we talk about mental health and we're talking about getting your mind right, when you go through a traumatic event, whether it's military, it could be a horrible automobile accident, it could be the death of a family member, it could be a divorce, any number of things, that trauma creates changes in your body chemistry. That trauma, depending on who you are in your body chemistry, can be really, really bad. You've got to get some help. You're not crazy, but you need some help. Symbios offers that help. There are counselors around the nation to offer that help. Again, go to Stop One, find out, get help. Don't be thinking, gosh, I just jumped off a 25-story building and I wish I hadn't done it. It's a hard time to make that decision. So this is important. It's also important to get to your children and talk to them about, are you being bullied in school? Are you having problems? Are you seeing things posted on Facebook and social media about you that's upsetting you? What's going on in your world? Do you have friends that are complaining about this? The suicide epidemic in children is frightening.
It is.
It is.
Absolutely frightening. So you do training, Charlynn. Tell us a little bit about your training, please.
Well, we have on the website, we list all the different trainings that we offer. We do use the public health approach, as I said earlier, that we want to surround people that are having a crisis with people that know how to respond to a crisis. It's said that you're more likely to stay alive from a heart attack in Seattle, Washington, because they have the highest ratio of people who know CPR. So we want to be the kind of community that knows how to respond to a mental health crisis. For some people, mental health is a long-term journey. And then for others, as you said, the trauma was immediate and, a one-time thing, or it can be cumulative. For the children and the caregivers of military family members, that's secondary trauma. And a lot of times the families are not getting the same help and they are suffering equally as well. And my biggest piece of advice in, any scenario, even if you see a person that's not, in crisis, is engage with people. If you see somebody in the grocery store line that's got on a sassy outfit, say, man, like your sassy outfit. I wear sassy outfits. So people will say, wow, that's a sassy outfit. And I'm like, did it make you smile? And it totally, it totally puts that dopamine in your brain that it breaks that neurotransmission of anger or fear or despair or hopelessness. Yes. Because really suicide is death by despair. Mm-hmm. They don't know what to do. And for people that say, oh, especially among adolescents, people say, oh yeah, they say that all the time, so just go ahead and kill yourself. This is the 25th time you said you're going to kill yourself. And they say, well, they're just trying to get attention. Right. Well, yeah, they are trying to get attention because they don't have the language, the emotional language to describe how they feel. All they know is they want that feeling to stop. And so it isn't that it's not a cry, a cry for help or attention. It's they don't know how to manage what's going on at that particular time.
Charlynn, I'm sorry. I was just going to say what you just said a moment ago. I will quite often start our church services, and I'll have the congregation to go and hug one another. I'll tell them, go and hug somebody. Go and tell them, I'm glad to see you here. Why? Because we never know what people are carrying. And what you said about in the store, saying something nice, smiling at somebody, saying hello. You never know that one word, as the gentleman said, if somebody had just asked me, if somebody had just shown that they cared, it may have changed that entire situation. So sometimes just small acts of kindness can make all the difference in the world.
Let's play. Jordan, could you please play that video, info video that's 4 minutes long? I would really appreciate it.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good. But I have a story, and I don't know where to start.
I'm good. But I feel alone in a crowd.
I'm good, but nobody understands.
I'm good, but the past keeps coming back.
But I can't get out of bed.
But I can't sleep.
I'm good, but I feel overwhelmed.
I'm good, but I don't feel safe.
But I don't even know who I am anymore.
But I still have nightmares. But I don't need any help.
I'm good, but I don't feel anything anymore.
I'm good, but I can't live like this anymore.
I'm really not so good. But are you ready to listen?
Whoa. Sent chills down my spine. I think that without a doubt, the more we can do, and again, I'm going to ask people to share this. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on social media, we're available on the DBTV network. Take a look at this. If you've got somebody you think is close, somebody who's having a problem, somebody who's hit the wall, send this to them, because there's information here, because people care. And the thing of it is it's not just about asking for attention. It may be a cry, and you don't want to hear that cry of somebody who just jumped off the bridge of life. You know what I mean? And I've heard it 4 times in my life. And I don't want to hear it again because it really hurts. There are things that can be done besides counseling. And opioid narcotics. Unfortunately, too many doctors prescribe uppers or downers or opioids or this, that, and whatever. Those things only mask the symptoms. And I think you get with a great counselor. Again, I send people to Symbiote CCN. This company is going to be expanding nationwide, hopefully worldwide over the next few years. And they can help people restart that body chemistry, change it, get the blood flow going. It's important that we change how we look at this, though, as a community. It's not something to hide from or, oh, I don't want to talk about it. No, it's something to stand up there and say, I'm here for you.
Yeah, and Jim, it can be as basic as that, letting somebody know, I see that you're having a bit of a problem. Is there something I can do to help? You don't have to start the conversation with, are you thinking about suicide? You know, you can ease into it. You can speak calmly, look at them directly, and to try to regulate their agitation. So the calmer you speak, they're going to mirror that and start coming down from the agitation, just based off the mirroring properties that our brain does naturally. You naturally start mirroring, hard word to say, those things. So, you know, speak calmly, speak directly, say, I'm here. I want you to be safe. How can I help you? Let's go sit down, or let's, you know, go have a cup of coffee, or, you know, tell me what's going on. And just those simple acts of engagement can really, really make a difference. And especially, I think, you know, as an evangelist for 30 years, and, you know, one of the things in churches is, don't ever ask me to give my testimony, because, you know, I don't ever want somebody to ask me that, because I won't know the right words to say. And I think as far as mental health is concerned, people are at that stage. They're like, well, I hope nobody ever asks me about suicide, or I don't ever meet anybody suicidal, because I won't know what to say. And, you know, suicide is a serious thing. Just, hey, break the ice. You wouldn't shy away if you knew somebody had cancer. You could tell they were in chemotherapy. You know, you would approach them and you would say, hey, how can I help you? Can I get you some water? I see that you're having a bit of a hard time. And really, as a society, we have got to start paying attention, because, as you said, the epidemic that's happening in the children population, it's the second leading cause of death between, I think, ages 14 to 21. Second leading cause of death is self-directed harm. So we've really got to start paying attention. We've got to start paying attention to kids, because right now we're raising a traumatized generation, and that is so sad, but also correctable.
So, Charlynn, I'm sorry, Jim.
No, brother.
Can I get back to the question that we had to interrupt you for the commercial? 988. I really want to get that out there and sort of set an expectation of what people will receive when they dial that number.
When you dial the crisis line, a trained professional, trained in suicide prevention, knows how to de-escalate the situation. So they're going to start out, they're going to be speaking calmly. They're going to say, what's going on? They're going to say, do you have, they may say, do you have access to lethal means? They might say, yes, I have a bottle of pills here, or I'm going to go to the garage, or, whatever that choice of method of suicide that they are thinking about. And it's, they would say, do you have someone you can give your medication to? Do you have someone that you can give your gun to? Can we lock it up? Put the key in a Ziploc bag and stick it in a jar of pickle relish, because you're never going to get a gun away from a veteran. That's right. Just it. But having to go and dig out the Ziploc bag to get the gun, to get the key lock to the gun. Well, that already has interrupted that ideation pathway. And, you know, you can get veterans to do, it sounds silly, but you can get veterans to do that.
Right.
And that crisis number, if they determine that you are in imminent danger, they will call 911. They will dispatch. They will dispatch the police. The good news about the dispatching of the police is now a lot of the police forces are trained in mental health first aid or applied suicide intervention skills. So they know that the guy that is coming at them with a knife, it's not about the guy, you know, it's not a nefarious thing. The guy wanted to hurt himself.
Right.
And a lot of times, I mean, so sadly, they're there to get the police officers to shoot them because they might not have the courage to do it themselves. So they create a scenario where the first responders do have to take those measures.
Charlynn,
But,
you and I know somebody whose son did that. And he was a veteran and had been a police officer, and he knew what to do. So he called him. He said the right thing. He said, somebody's broken into my apartment and they've got a gun and they're going to kill me. And boy, I mean to tell you, a few minutes later, police broke down the door and the guy was sitting there with a gun in his hand. And what do you think the policeman did? They protected themselves. You know, that has to be happening far too many times. And that's trauma for those police officers. That's a horrible trauma for that police officer.
Yeah.
You know, and you, Cedric, you are a chaplain to the Prosper Police Department.
Yes.
And you probably helped some guys with that.
We've had situations where from dispatch all the way through the police officer to the firemen who go in and have to look at the scene, that we have to then later counsel because of the effect that the suicide had on them. One thing you said, and I want to say this real briefly, Charlynn, the fact that mentioning to a person that you're asking the question. We had a client of ours who called our office. She actually talked to my wife, Michelle, and said, I'm thinking about killing myself. And Michelle asked her, she said, okay, do you have a means to do it? And she said, yeah, I've got pills. I'm going to go home, drink some wine and take pills. She said, listen, can I ask you to just come to my office? Because, at that time, we didn't even have our own office. She said, can you at least come to my office and we can talk before you go home and do that? And the woman agreed to do that. Now, in between, Michelle called the police. The police met the lady there. Was she happy when she saw the policeman that met her? No, she was not. However, and her family, let me say this, her family wasn't happy either. But 6 months later at church, she came up and she said, thank you so much, because she had a daughter. She was very thankful that somebody cared enough to take the actions.
And wouldn't you like to be the person who took the action to stop somebody from that reaction, which took their life?
Yeah.
We want to save lives. We want to bring veteran suicide down to zero, nada. And it starts with us. It starts with us who care, and everybody should care.
Ask the question.
So we're going to be back in a minute. I want to say again, thank you to Fairway Independent Mortgage. Thank you to Healing Thine Heart's Ministry. Thank you to Symbios, and a special thank you to Stop One and Charlynn for being on board with us today. So let's continue this conversation in just a minute. This is Veterans Impact Show. I'm Jim Blythe, and this is the great Cedric White. We're here for you.
And I'm the queen.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Heart's Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Well, Cedric, what a tremendous program and lots of information.
Most definitely. And Charlynn, you've been just a wealth of information. And as always glad to be around you and with you.
And she's not doing anything real crazy today.
Not today. Not today.
Not today. And you never, really, you never know. I think, you had said something just recently. I took a call, it said unknown number, and I thought, well, I got this little prompting, missionary, I'm all about the spirit. And I answered the call, and there's no other way to explain how the guy got my phone number because, probably if you searched Google, we're way down on the list, but he got through to me and he said, can you help me? And I said, sure, what's going on? And so he gave me what was going on with his girlfriend. I talked to his girlfriend and she kind of got out of that ideation, but he called me 2 days later and said I'd had to call the police because I told him, look, if you feel like she's in imminent danger, don't hesitate, call 911. And he did that. The police came, and she got the appropriate help because when I was talking to her, I asked her, I said, have you had any recent change in medication? And she said, yeah, 2 weeks ago. And I said, well, when did you start feeling this out of controlness? And she was like, 2 weeks ago. So a lot, there's something to be said. Medicine does its job, but every single antidepressant medicine says may cause suicidal ideation. Yep. So don't, I try to tell people, don't blame the person. It's really chemistry. And you wouldn't blame a person, for taking some cough syrup and getting sick. You wouldn't blame the person for that. You would blame the medicine and try to get them something else that they could tolerate. So there's a lot of things that you can interact with, stay engaged, and continue to say, I want to keep you safe. I want to keep you alive. And if they get mad, it's like you said, they're alive to get mad. Right. So,
that's at least a feeling.
I can look at that.
and I got to tell you, it hurts to go through it. I mean, it hurts to go through it with somebody you know. It hurts even more to be one of the 6 men carrying the casket. And I've been there, done that. And so I'm saying, sadly, please get this program out. Share it. Enjoy it. Take a look at the videos that we presented. Take a look at the information. Go to stop1.info. Get this information. If you need help, call Charlynn. If you need help, call me. 214-502-4600. Call him. He's a great minister. And let me tell you, he knows how to handle it far better than I do. But we want to stop veteran suicide. Yes. We want to stop the harm that comes to families. Charlynn, you said it. I've heard the rates is 60% of children of families where suicide is prevalent. I don't know which is right, but if it's even 1%,
exactly,
that's too much. That is way
and children don't have the brain development to make that other choice other than suicide.
Right.
And hopelessness need stop too. If you know a child who is being bullied, we need to do something about it.
Absolutely. And the school districts need to do something about it and take it very seriously. They're beginning to.
I never dreamed possible the stories that I've heard about childhood bullying using cyber stuff. Yeah. I hear a lot of stuff as a certified senior advisor about how scams are perpetrated using the internet and social media. Right. And I read an article where a man committed suicide because somebody scammed him out of a tremendous amount of money pretending to be a woman, somebody else. And he was a lonely widower. Let's stop this.
That's right.
Let's stop this. So again, please share the program. Please be a part of this. Go to Charlynn. Charlynn, when's your next training? What are you doing training soon?
Well, we haven't set our 2025 calendar, but if you have a group, if you've got 2 people that want to learn about it, if you've got a bunco group that wants, that wants to learn about it, it's as easy as learning CPR. It is making a commitment as simple as learning CPR. In every training that we do, I'll ask, how many of you have been trained in CPR? At least 75% of them raise their hand. So it's as simple as that. We have all levels. We have 1-hour training. We have a 45-minute training. We have 8-hour training. So, and we have faith community training. So there is a lot of stigma, sadly, in the faith community that, will tell people that die by suicide are not going to heaven, and that is not accurate.
Right.
No.
Right.
So getting those trainings out, you can, and you don't even have to talk to me. You can look online. We've taped some of our trainings during the pandemic, so you can look and see, okay, this is what this training is going to be about.
You bet.
So we'll
Cedric?
customize it.
Yes, sir.
This has been a great program.
been
We'd like to
outstanding
close with a prayer.
Yes.
Would you please close us with a prayer?
We'd love to. We'd love to. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for Charlynn and Stop One. We thank you for the information she shared. And we ask that you would just speak to those who feel that there is no hope, because you are hope. So bless those who are feeling by themselves. Bless this country. Make this nation again one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. Amen. Charlynn, thank you for being on board.
Absolutely.
I miss seeing you in church.
background.
You got to come to Cedric and I's church.
I would love to.
Come
It's
on.
up in
Prosper, yeah.
yes.
We'll see. Or you can attend online, but I'd rather see you in
Okay.
church.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, with that outfit. God bless you.
Good to see you,
Thank you
Charlynn.
so much. And thank
see
you
you
for
too,
sharing Veterans Impact Show with everyone you know, because we want to stop suicide now.
God bless.
One at a time.